you have to be really confident in yourself to take some risk and recognize you may fail. You have to be good with being alone and often lonely at the top. In the corporate world, you've got team, you've always got collaboration, you've got a lot of things that de-risk you. You've got a lot of buffers and safety nets around you, legal and compliance, and everybody's not going to let you fail too bad because then the brand fails. Mm-hmm. But when you get out on your own, you've got to think about not only your own payroll, but the people on your team. To grow, you've got to invest, and everything goes slower than you think, and it always runs into barriers you didn't expect. So you got to be prepared to really go through some, I think, challenging times. And you got to have a mindset whether you're looking way out where you want to go. You got to lift your head up and get way out there and get past the noise of the day.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul M.D. podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable, real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins.
What happens when the chief medical officer of a 1,600 provider system walks away? Not because he's burned out, but because he knows he's built for more. In this episode, you'll hear how today's guest built an empire with 3 financial pillars: healthcare, marine industry, and real estate, all while redefining what it means to lead, scale, and stay aligned. I'm joined by Dr. Josh Honaker, pediatrician, visionary entrepreneur, and founder of ParentMD. From flipping houses and building developments to launching startups and consulting nationally, he's showing us what it looks like to create a legacy. One integrator, one deal, and one mission-critical decision at a time. Here we go. All right. Here we are. Josh, welcome to the show. How is the day going for you right now?
Right now, very well. A little cool in Louisville, Kentucky. We were really warm the last couple of days, but a little cool breeze this afternoon, but life is good.
Yeah. And also down here in the Carolinas, this time we're recording towards the end of May. Lightened up a little bit, a little cool, but it's still kind of warm. I'm finding myself out on a job site here. We got a flip going here just outside of Charlotte, so back in the seats. But I want to learn a little bit about you. First of all, you are a physician, so tell us just a little bit about your medical career. But I want to quickly jump into some other things outside of medicine as well, too.
Yeah, quick overview. Pediatrician by trade. Went to University of Louisville School of Medicine, then went to Coast Children's Hospital for my pediatric residency training. And with that, started my own practice right out of residency, grew it to 9 doctors in 8 years, then I was chief medical officer at a local hospital, then was invited to be the chief of pediatrics at the medical school for 3 years at U of L. And then I was invited to Norton Healthcare in Louisville, which is the behemoth for healthcare, to be their first physician executive for the Norton Medical Group. At that time, it was about 450 providers I was over. And then 10 years later, I was the chief medical administrative officer for the Norton Medical Group, which we had about 1,600 providers. I left at that time 4 years ago now, to start Honaker Health, my own consulting entity, and to be more entrepreneurial and start a platform called ParentMD, which is a trusted platform with telehealth and content by pediatricians guided by parents. And then I'm involved in a lot of other entrepreneurial activities and just wanted freedom and flexibility in my career.
Very interesting. First of all, congratulations on that journey. That was awesome. Coming out right into your own practice, growing that, and then stepping up along the way. I feel like in that piece, stepping away, starting to think about building wealth beyond the hospital or private practice. I heard that happen in there. But what was the real trigger that happened for you to start thinking outside of the hospital or the private practice?
No, great question. So coming back in my journey from private practice to academics to the corporate world, those 10 years in the corporate space I needed. I got my MBA, learned a lot more about business and leadership and management and just opportunities in healthcare in general. Once I started realizing, though, that, I was a salaried person, taken very taken care of very well by the system. Loved it. Felt like I got to impact healthcare and be a part of growth and a great future. But I saw that there's probably a different trajectory. I could grow more wealth, have more freedom, flexibility, scratch my itch to be an entrepreneur, to be involved in startups, to be involved in higher growth activities and work with people that can make decisions quicker. The corporate world was great in so many ways, but cycles are slow. It's frustrating. You got to lead by consensus, get everybody involved. And the whole rigmarole of the corporate world just is not how I'm wired. I lived in it, learned a lot from it, but I knew there was a world that I could move faster and do more of what I wanted and kind of work with more people that were wired like me.
Very interesting. Yeah, that time frame, lead, kind of by consensus, a whole different world. The entrepreneur, you talk about making a decision, making it fast and sticking with it. That's entrepreneurship right there.
Yep.
And a different shift. But what other types of mindset shifts had to happen to go from a physician executive to an entrepreneur and now investor?
Yeah, no, great question. My mind goes to you have to be really confident in yourself to take some risk and recognize you may fail. You have to be good with being alone and often lonely at the top. In the corporate world, you've got team, you've always got collaboration, you've got a lot of things that de-risk you. You've got a lot of buffers and safety nets around you, legal and compliance, and everybody's not going to let you fail too bad because then the brand fails. Mm-hmm. But when you get out on your own, you've got to think about not only your own payroll, but the people on your team. To grow, you've got to invest, and everything goes slower than you think, and it always runs into barriers you didn't expect. So you got to be prepared to really go through some, I think, challenging times. And you got to have a mindset whether you're looking way out where you want to go. You got to lift your head up and get way out there and get past the noise of the day. The other piece is, in the corporate world, you can just follow your calendar every day and go from meeting to meeting to meeting. When you get out, I start my days often at coffee shop, and I have to spend the first hour or two saying what I need to do to clean up yesterday, plan for today, prioritize, strategize, and I'm not going to get everything done I want, but what's mission critical and what gets shunted to tomorrow. So you're always thinking long-term planning, but you're thinking mission critical right now, and you're all constantly repivoting and strategizing. And you're just always I've got limited resources and time. How do I make the most of it? But I don't need to ask anybody's permission. I just do it. So you got to feel very empowered to talk, think, and change and strategize very quickly, and constantly look at the landscape around you because it's going fast. And if you don't stay with it, again, you're safe in a corporate world, but you're not safe when you're on your own.
Yeah, it's kind of like talk about a major mindset shift is, I'm not a physician. I get to speak with a lot of physicians, but that risk adverse piece, talking about failing, and that's something you definitely don't want to do as a physician, and you can because people's lives are on the line. So being an entrepreneur is that mindset shift of, okay, it's even better to fail faster too, so you can make those adjustments and keep rolling. So that's definitely something that happens that allows you to, I guess, make that change. But a lot of people maybe won't get out of that life, that cycle, that circle, because they tell themselves they can't take those kind of risks. They can't fail because it's so ingrained in you. And the idea of what's mission critical, it made me think of a book called The One Thing. Have you read that?
The One Thing is, I just got a copy of that book the other day. Yeah, I was told by some folks I need to read it. So I haven't read it yet, but I just got it.
Yeah, it's very, very good read. Gary Keller is the author, and I think he was one of the founders or creators of Keller and Keller Realty. So coming from the real estate world, very interesting. Yes, when you're there, it's almost like you have to find more to say no to, and find the one thing that says yes, that's critical of your time and your time only. Now, this failure thing, overcoming that, failing, going fast, being by yourself, deciding what to do. Are there any instances in your career that you can pick out, moments in clinical medicine that made you realize you wanted more time or control or financial flexibility because of these instances?
Yes. Because of the instances of opportunity or the instances of risk?
the risk, like falling into those cycles, the risk, living by your calendar, those kind of moments.
Yeah. So I felt constantly in the corporate world. So, I started as an entrepreneur because I came from an entrepreneur family. So I had no problem taking the risk to open a practice, start a practice, and grow a thriving practice. Once I got in the corporate world, my wife enjoyed the set paycheck, the growth, the bonuses. But I realized what I was also risking was my ability to grow, my ability to be happy to the fullest, my ability to be creative, innovative, do more. I felt like I was constrained because that world of needing to live in a world that expected high reliability. So when you're talking about risk and mango, my mind went to submarines and aviation and healthcare. So nuclear submarines they're the most highly reliable entity in the world. They can't fail. Aviation takes on the next, one of the top ones. Sadly, healthcare is so low. So even though we shouldn't be able to fail and we should make sure that we're very reliable, healthcare tends to not be as reliable as you think. But in the corporate world, in a nonprofit setting where you got a board of directors, you got multiple layers, you got a matrix organization, they're making it where you're not going to fail because the brand can't fail and the executives above you, self-preservation, can't fail. So there's a lot of reliability. So all of that really de-risked your ability to fail unless you just really, I would suggest, were incompetent, lazy, and didn't have integrity. So, but I realized in another way, I was really risking my whole future potential. I was risking my happiness. I was risking the ability to be productive and to be wired to do what I was wired to do. So you probably like me, the busier, the more chaotic, the more productive I get more energized and actually can do more. That world really stifled me. To be honest, after about 10 years, I didn't have the creativity. I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the desire. And I knew that I just wanted and longed for that, even though I knew it'd be more insecure, chaotic, stressful. And my wife and a lot of other family and friends, they don't understand it, but only those who are entrepreneurs get it. So I've been in the grind for 4 years and I've finally gotten it more stable, less chaotic, predictable, solid. It's still hard at times, but I see the light in the tunnel. Things are coming to fruition and it's been worth it. But coming back to how you get there, you really have to be okay with being lonely. You got to believe in yourself. And if you fail, you don't really fail. You just change the plan and go to a plan. And what I tend to find, it's such an old cliche, but when one door closes, another door opens. Every time on my journey, if something goes wrong, I just lift my head up saying, all right, something better is going to come along. But I actually now believe it. Used to it was hope. Now I believe it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this, it's a hard journey and that transition. But at the end, you have to believe in yourself and you got to have a few people around you too that believe in you. Otherwise, I don't think you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a huge piece. Surrounding yourself with the right people. And that the resilience in what you've done here too, Josh, is keeping your nose to the grindstone, keeping focused, because you say 10 years like it's just a snap of the fingers, but the day by day of that process of those little instances, all those challenges and compounding, now, yes, you can look back and you have this really firm belief that, yes, this does exist. It happens. Let's shift into real estate. Where are you right now in that journey? Are you actively investing, building a portfolio? Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah. So I always like to say I've kind of got three legs to my financial stool. One is healthcare, and a heavy focus is children's healthcare. As my wife and I also own a couple direct primary care pediatric practices and ParentMD and consulting and such. The other is ironically, I love the outdoors, so I love to fish. So I got in my zone. I love the marine world. So me and another buddy have 4 different companies and products that we have patents on and in the marine world. And then the third leg is real estate. So we've done everything from, had a little 10 acres we bought at well, I should come back. My first real estate venture was when I started my pediatric practice. My partners and I, we purchased a piece of ground, got zone commercial, renovated the house that was on it, added, and then later added some more land. And that was my first, when I exited my company, the pediatric office also exited the real estate entity. And I was like, wow, that's the easiest money I've ever made. I had equity in that. And I was like, real estate, I've got to be in this more. So then my brother and dad, we got very involved in our lake property near Mammoth Cave and did a couple developments. Never thought I would do a development, but we did 2 different developments. And then we got into storage units, and then we got into a car wash. And then we got some other property we're developing and bought a big Airbnb, 9-bedroom, and renovated that and flipped it. And then a buddy of mine in healthcare, we flipped probably 7 or 8 properties here in Louisville. And so we've learned to do that with a little bit of a team. And then when we had that development, we built probably 15 houses. So we built houses, and I only did that because I needed to move the lots. We had this beautiful development laid out, but I realized no one else was going to build that first house. So we had to. Mm-hmm. So learned a lot of lessons through real estate, and real estate definitely is part of our portfolio. And, it's not a behemoth, and we don't have investments in a lot of other things outside of what we have built or own and control ourselves.
Very interesting. How in the world do you juggle all of that stuff? How involved are you? Because you say you flip 7 or 8 houses. That's a lot. Like, it could be a full-time job just in and of itself. So it's probably a little different for each thing, the development, the flipping the house, the Airbnb. How do you develop or separate time for each one of these things? Because in the medical practice, you own practices. In the marine world, you're talking about patents. And then in real estate, all these, how in the world do you divide your time and make it efficient and effective in each leg of the stool?
Yeah, great question. So a couple answers come to mind. One, in the juggling, I drop some balls. So when I spin a lot of plates, I drop a plate here and there. So I never want it inferred that I don't have some casualties of war along the way. I'd like to think I've gotten a lot better at that as I go. Again, back to this prioritizing, strategizing, I go where what's mission critical today. So like, for example, when the car wash opportunity came along, I doubled down on that for a month or 2. But the answer to my question really lies in delegation and team and right people. So I never jump into anything without doing a whole lot of homework. I never move forward without having an expert person or 2 or operator, integrator. I'm a CEO visionary mindset, and it took me a few years to learn that, but I could do integration operation, but I really have to surround myself by those project leaders, those operations folks. So just like, for example, the car wash, we found the right guy and he oversees it daily. The real estate stuff, I didn't do the actual flipping. We invested, found the property. I found someone who I knew was good at that. We got in and supported him, and we agreed to a cut. I've had a lot of different arrangements through the years, but me, it's always about doing homework. It's about finding experts. It's about delegating. It's about getting team. And then it's about the word alignment, finding incentives. Finding an incentive that makes it worthwhile for both parties to go knock this out of the park. So I feel like I'm constantly putting together teams and leading and putting the visions together. And some things get more time than others, and some things don't get the time they should, because I've often taken on too much. So if my wife were part of this podcast, she would just be loving to jump in right now and tell me how I have not used time wisely at certain times. And I've always tried to balance my faith, family, career, patient responsibilities. So, I'm a guy, I start at 6:00 in the morning at the coffee shop, and I go to 5 or 6 every day, and, sometimes weekends and nights. So I spend a lot of time, but I'm doing things I love. I'm doing with people I love. And I'd like to think creating wealth for my family and relationships and things that are good and that we enjoy doing. But with this, I always have flexibility and freedom. So my wife and I can do a lot of travel, and I can do a lot of things virtually. The more this journey goes, the more that I leverage technology, team, people, really manage my time. And I try to get myself more out of the weeds and be that leader for teams. So it's really about leveraging resources and learning. I've made a lot of mistakes.
If you stopped today, what percentage of your businesses or investment directions or projects would also stop with you?
If I stopped, the good thing more and more is passive. The marine world, after me and my buddy grinded for 5-8 years doing a lot of the work with our team in Louisville, we licensed 4 companies over to an entity in Western Kentucky. So that is passive now. Royalties, They do all the work, and we got to them and they've taken it to a whole nother level. So the marine world is definitely all passive. Real estate, it's passive now, largely. Excuse me. Healthcare, as I consult, I'm at the table. And now I've stood up these 2 pediatric offices. I check on these, a few times a week, but the doctors and the team, that's good. Now that's in still startup mode. That's not spitting out profit yet. ParentMD is still stand-up mode, not spitting out profit, so requires me at the helm. But real estate and marine world is largely passive, and anything that's healthcare requires my hand at the plow, and some of those are still in startup mode.
You talked about being a CEO, a visionary. It makes me think of the book Traction by Gino Wickman. And this idea of being a CEO, a visionary, needing this implementer or the integrator, what would you say to somebody who is a CEO or visionary, but is not even able to take that next step to partner with an integrator or a implementer, or, to then build the team? Like, how many people struggle being a visionary, but not even being able to connect with the next level to create the team?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I don't know, but going back to that book and that chapter or two that really talks about, and that's where really a lot of that mindset came from me. And we use EOS and the L10 meetings for ParentMD. So that Traction book was given me years ago by one of my working partners in ParentMD. Very impactful when I was in the corporate world. The one thing I took away from that book and about myself is that, a CEO often needs to be the visionary only. But then there are a number of COOs who can also be CEO. So a number of integrator operators can lift their head up, be visionary, and be that CEO. But not every CEO can be an integrator operator. It tends to, work one way or the other there. So I think the CEO has to be honest with himself. Are you more and only good at being a visionary and leading? Or can you truly do integration operation? If you can't, you need to stay away from doing something unless you have it. I will have to say, I can grind and it drains me to do integrator operator activities when I have to in different businesses, when stand up or just to cover. But at the end of the day, I don't start anything anymore, and I don't have confidence and success if I don't have that integrator operator next to me. Now, if I have the right person next to me, we can conquer the world. Mm-hmm. And hence, through the years, I'll suggest I've found 5 or 6 of those have just been tried and true in the healthcare world in different spaces and in the marine world and real estate, who really, my success is because of what they're able to do. But I'm able to guide and get them set up for success too, I'd like to think.
Yeah. I see a challenge in this point, like making these relationships. You've got these opportunities, you make these relationships with an implementer or a partner. It's say like the flip, you say you build a relationship with someone and then make a split in whatever's there. So there's a challenge here, Josh, because we're talking about a hypothetical split. And in a startup, this is a hypothetical situation. So it's like, what do they call it? The carrot and the stick, because there's no money, right? How do you then get this going without spending a penny,
It has to be 2 individuals or 2 groups that really get to know each other, want to work each other, believe it, trust it. I tend to like, the older I get, more pilot periods. Like I have a fellow right now, he's doing a little bit of an operational role in another venture. He's helping me stand up something employer health, but I'm going more gently to test him and him to test me. And my word has really been heavy recently around de-risking. How do I de-risk things? So to me, a lot of planning, research, prep, getting to know people, laying out some ways how we could work together, and again, trying to find alignment so that if there is a split, and it's different with how everybody's wired differently, and seeing what makes sense. Today, I just did a handshake deal with a doctor and helping on employer health, and a lot of it, we're so aligned on our vision, where we want to go, the opportunity, and knowing each other. We had to have a few salient elements that we came together, but compensation wasn't ironed out yet. Percentage of the upside, not ironed out yet, but we had enough there that we were good to handshake and move on, and we had confidence we could figure it out. That only comes through years of experience, I think, knowing how you're wired and how others and how you work. But to me, it's all, how can I find it where someone else is excited to work with me and they get reward? And if I do that, I usually set myself up for success. It goes back to the book by the author's Diamond, and it's Getting More. It's a book on negotiation. And his whole mindset, negotiation, whether it's conflict resolution, making deals or whatnot. And I got to hear him speak one time at the Healthcare Management Academy to the CMO Fellows Group. But the whole takeaway from that book is you first come in with the mindset to understand what the other party wants and needs. And you look at them and say, hey, we're not going to work to find compromise or to serve my needs. I want to hear what you want and need, even if we're in conflict. Tell me what you need. I'm going to work to try to get you what you want. Then I'm going to trust in good faith. You're going to help me get what I want, and we're both going to get more together. It's a mindset change. It really helps with conflict. It helps in any deal making. But I really try to bring that when I'm doing partnerships with people, collaboration, how we work together and refine those integrators, operators. I first ask, what is it you want and need, and how are you wired? Some people aren't wired by performance bonuses. Some people are about security. It's understanding how they're wired and then try to get them that. And then I said, now let's try to figure what I need to be able to say yes to what we just said.
Very interesting. Now, you mentioned ParentMD. This is a platform that required tech, marketing, and systems, all things that real estate investors need too. How has building your business changed the way you think about building a portfolio?
Wow. So building a business like ParentMD sure teaches you that every item that you think is going to be in your portfolio does not go as planned. So I left Norton largely planning on ParentMD. I'm 4 years into it and about 1.3 million raised and rebuilt the platform 3 times till I now figured out finally my product fit, a focus on babies as a pain point, a focus on healthcare systems, employer health benefits, and insurance brokers to move the agenda with large volumes and a PMPM model, subscription model, versus initially it was about birth to college, direct to consumer. I didn't know anything about tech, and I'm spending money and learning. So I say all that to say the thing I learned about growing wealth and building this business when it comes to my portfolio is I don't think you can just depend on one thing. Otherwise, that's risky. Now, it's risky because you lack focus if you don't stay on one thing. So it's this balance. As an entrepreneur, I feel much better and energized and secure by having my hand in multiple things. And I often say, wow, it's great, because one thing I thought would be really hard was easy and did well. Another item I would put all my efforts in and it didn't do well, Now, with that being said, I've never been one to just focus on one thing, except for when I stood up that private practice, and I did that for 8 years. And then I started getting in a lot of things. That one was going to win no matter what I did, because it was an area need and great payer mix, and we gave a great product, and the kids were the main thing. So it wasn't hard to focus and make that great. But all the other businesses to stand up, you truly have to have focus and capital and plan and business plan and go. But even when I've done all those right, that ParentMD was the classic. It's been by far it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad, though, when I left the corporate world, I didn't just focus on that. That's when I stood up the consulting, and I got in some other things, and I worked, and we set up these pediatric practices, which will be great for the future. So with all that being said, I think, if one thing doesn't go really well, it could shoot and kill your whole portfolio. So you kind of got to have some different things in the mix, in my opinion. And a lot would not advise that, because you're not focused on just one thing, but all depends on how you're wired, I reckon.
Yeah. A lot of parallels, a lot of things. I mean, to me, Josh, it's just because it's business. Real estate is a business. It's got to be looked at as a business because it is a business. Mm-hmm. So there should be so many parallels in whether it's the healthcare platform, real estate, probably in the marine ventures that you had too. The way that you say stood up those businesses, and then like licensing, almost like franchising kind of thing. It's all about business. What would freedom-based life look like for you if real estate income replaced the clinical side of what you do completely? And it sounds like to me the ParentMD and the 2 practices I believe that you have there. Mm-hmm. What if that just either stood up or real estate took over that, what would that look like in your life?
Someone asked me the other day, when I get things to where they're all passive and stood up, what will I do? Which maybe that's what you're asking, when things get in the fixed place and you're not just working on standing up. I think I'll really enjoy and relish taking each of my things and optimize them, because I think at the age of 52, I'm losing energy, steam, and stamina. And I'm appreciating things being more simplified and passive and just work on optimizing. I don't have the same drive I used to with every shiny thing and idea to go stand up, because I've been through that, and it's a lot of fire, and a lot of things are easy on passive mode now, but boy, I had to pay a lot of dues, and I don't have the energy to do that anymore. So I think, honestly, I'm in a place I'll enjoy the next 10 years of my career. I think just optimizing what I've got and enjoy the fruits of those labors and not complicate or stress my life, and have more downtime, more free time, more flexibility, and hopefully spend more time in my zones of where I think I've got some gifts of, leadership and supporting and mentoring and feeding into others, because the joy from that definitely rises now as the money is, more stable and taken care of. So it's another phase of life, but great question.
Yeah. And that there's something instilled in us, whether it's high performers, entrepreneurs, whatever it may be, it'll typically lend into that never retire, right? This idea that because your brain just doesn't stop. God willing, you maintain the capacity in your brain, but you are going to be you. That thing that's deep in your soul, the things that you're passionate about. Eventually, you get the opportunity to pivot and then do greater things for others, but you still have this itch that constantly gets scratched. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, what advice would you give to physician entrepreneurs or, physician investors who haven't taken the first step towards investing or ownership?
Well, without you prepping me, I would definitely tell them that real estate needs to be part of their portfolio. I tell it to every young person, but definitely physicians who are going to have some disposable income early and often. You need to get real estate as part of your portfolio. I think if there's a physician who naturally has an itch to be an entrepreneur, to do more, to be in that space, they need to really do a reality check, though. How are they wired? What is it that fills their cup? What energizes them? And what areas do they have gifts in? And I say that because a lot of physicians will want to go be a leader. They want to be an executive, but not everybody's wired to be able to do that. Some want to go do real estate. They hear the buddies flipping or making money, but some of them don't have the risk profile to build the stomach and to do that. And some don't, from lifestyle, want to do anything outside of their time of 8 to 5. I think the physicians today are much more about their protected time, their lifestyle. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to be ready to pay some extra dues, take some risk. That's all doable and fine, and likely to be successful if you're wired and energized that way. And I think if you've got some gifts to see it through. The thing I always tell everybody, none of my ventures have ever gone as planned. There's always something that came up that was a buck on the road that I could have easily quit, or someone else would have quit. But I've got this stubbornness to figure it out. And I think that's probably one of the things that drives me most. I love taking hard, complex problems and trying to solve them. To me, that probably juices me as much as anything. And that just naturally comes with being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And startup. Startup.
Yep.
Hey, the idea of having your wife on here to see, like, if you guys are anything like us, I am kind of like, what do you think, like the Tasmanian devil out here, startup and shiny object, and I can do this, and this problem needs me. And then sometimes I'll get so, like, I can almost get sick to my stomach with anxiety because I will be so fixated on one thing, because that's the mission critical thing. And then when you lift your head up, is like, oh, because when you lift your head up, it's like the whole world could crash out. It's not, that's when we lose faith, but it's not. But then my wife behind me, sounds like maybe it's similar to you. She's the chaos coordinator. Like, she's the one that comes in and puts all these pieces together. Because when you're out front creating these storms, for me, my wife is that base, that foundation that brings it back in. And one question she asked me is a lot is, how much is enough, right? When is that moment do we get there? Because step back, Brett, look at this. If we optimize our operation right now, we may be there already, you know?
So amen. My wife has asked me different times, when are you going to be content? When's enough enough? My wife is an accountant. Her father was an engineer. Her mother's a nurse. So she comes from, and her brother, a computer engineer. So she comes from a very risk averse, secure family. It's not, I come from my dad was in the oil business. My brother's in aviation. We all have owned our own businesses. And for us, a lot of it is the joy of growing and doing that kind of work, you know? So I have a friend who's an entrepreneur, and he found out from some sessions with a counselor that he is turbulent, and he comes in with this energy, and he's okay with all that. And his wife, it just drives her crazy, and it's not good. He said, once I realized I was seen as turbulent, only then could I be less turbulent. And we got talking. I said, well, I'm turbulent too. I said, I get that. So I think the kids have an insight. The people around you knowing how you're wired, I do think it's good for them to ask those questions. When are you going to be content? When's enough? Because it really makes you think, what's the why? Because sometimes they need to hear and understand that it's not about accumulating wealth necessarily. It's about, that's how you're wired, that's how you're energized, and you're trying to actually create freedom and flexibility to do even more. So I always feel like it's to get to a place that provides even more freedom and flexibility for me and my family. And those are just tokens at the table to allow you to do that. So yeah, my wife, I think, sees the world very similarly. And I think you have to be counterbalanced by such.
Yeah. And like you mentioned earlier, it's having the right people around you is so important, so crucial. And the most crucial piece is who you decide to spend the rest of your life with, who you decide to marry. And I was sitting, I think it was, I was in Greenville, South Carolina. I was interviewing property managers for this property we're acquiring. And at breakfast, this property manager was there, and he had his son there with him as a grown son, you know, passing on the business. And the one thing he told me stood out like instant memory. It is like instant memory. He said, make sure you marry well. And I'm like, check. I've already got that done, right? Yeah. And then he's like, your children, make sure your children marry well. So not only is it important to have, that path for you, but as we now grow and pass this on to our children, making sure that happens for them. And for us, it's a faith-based, believing in God and having that moment, and those beliefs, that structure. I mean, that's almost like a step up in life in itself. Hey, Josh, where can people get in contact with you, learn more about ParentMD, follow your journey? I mean, thank you again for being here, because your story, your journey is incredible. And all of these pieces that you can look back and say 5 years, 10 years, that now is the experience and the results that's created. So how can people connect with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, one, I appreciate you being on, and I appreciate the kind words and let me share and learning your journey as well too. The one can come to HonakerHealth.com, and from that they can see about the consulting I do, my bio, CV, other activities and such, and also come to ParentMD.com and see my passion around children's healthcare and the platform that we provide telehealth and education content and resources from a trusted pediatrician partner where we're guided by parents. But that platform, the new site just went live yesterday. We're now sharing our baby playbooks, which is our digital package of videos and articles and everything we think parents need that first year of life. Just sharing that with a couple healthcare systems, getting going. So we're an exciting inflection point after 4 years, and I think we're getting ready to get to that tipping point. So thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have these .coms in the show description as well too. And hey, keep at it, keep having fun, and keep your wife close. That is the thing for me in my life. Unsolicited advice there, which I know that you're doing already. But yes, that comfortable balance that gives us that purpose and takes us closer to who we are designed to be. So thanks again, Josh. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brett. Thanks.
Now that was real. Josh reminded us that building wealth isn't about control. It's about alignment, delegation, and playing the long game with people you trust. And I love conversations like the one we got to have today. You can tell when somebody's genuine and you connect. We talked about expanding associations, keeping the right people around you. That sense of genuineness that's there is so important. Definitely had that. So I advise that you reach out to Josh, learn a little bit more about his process, even the consulting side of things, or just follow him. You can connect with him at honakerhealth.com. That's HONAKERHEALTH.com, or parentmd.com as well. Again, thank you for your time today. And as always, thank you for your attention, because without attention, our time is almost worthless, right? Better to start today than tomorrow. This is the Real Estate Mogul M.D.
This episode is powered by Crescent Tech. If you are looking for a CRM built for real estate investors, discover Streamline REI by Crescent Tech. Simplify, automate, close faster.